To add to our challenge in drawing portraiture, I am going to talk now about teeth. I'm going to draw two teeth here, or two sets of teeth here. One with where we see the gums, so we can talk a little bit about how to set up a drawing like this where we see the gums and the teeth. And then we're going to go into this open mouth where we're going to create lots of shadows to show the depth of this mouth. And these will give you a good idea of how to set any kind of drawing that has teeth involved. Now, they can be a challenge, particularly when you're first drawing, because there are such subtle shadows in between each of these teeth. So a lot of times when you're first drawing teeth, your immediate response, the immediate thing you start to do is you start to draw harsh outlines around each of these teeth. And that becomes what I say in class is like the chiclet gum, like those little pieces of gum. You're gonna make the teeth start to look like very unnatural, very cartoon. And we don't really see harsh outlines on here. Think about that whenever you're drawing. If you don't see a harsh outline around something, like I don't see a harsh outline around his lips, so I'm not going to draw a harsh outline there. This is all going to be subtle shading. So I'm gonna get started and set up both of these with my under sketch, and then we'll start talking a little bit about the details. So just like I've started every other drawing, I'm going to make myself some guidelines. Where's the corner of the mouth? Teeth don't just automatically start right away when you look inside of a mouth. They go back into space, and we usually see these corners here as like a deeper shadow. Then I'm going to make a mark of where the top of this lip is. I might make some marks about how far that shadow will go, but I'm not gonna do a dramatic outline on really anything. So again, like how I talked about when we were drawing mouths before, these are not gonna just be straight lines. They have lots of dips and curves and turns to them. So when you're looking at the mouth that you're drawing, look at where it is unique. I always say, look at how this particular person's mouth, this particular expression that they're making, look at how it is unique. So does the corner of the mouth dip up a little bit, or does it go down? When we look at the top of their lip, where do we see some creases? This is all going to get the person that you're drawing looking the most like themselves. Now I'm gonna do some different kinds of marks onto my paper, and I'm just gonna show myself where does the center of the mouth lie on here. So I can kind of see that it's gonna line up with the curve there. And that's not a given, you know. The center of someone's mouth doesn't always start that way. You know, depending on how the photograph was taken, or just that in particular person's mouth, you know, you have to look for this kind of stuff. So, okay. So I've got the top of the mouth here. I am going to also make a mark for about, like, how does the curve of the top of this look? It's not gonna be straight across. Like I always say, it's never gonna just be these straight, perfect lines. There's gonna be curves to it. The teeth go back into space, which means something's gonna kind of go lifted up. So I am going to bring in some of those marks. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna chunk out about how much space will go for each of these teeth. Again, I'm gonna keep this as light as possible, and I'm just gonna kinda try to, it goes, you know, your front teeth are gonna be bigger, and then as it goes back into space, they're gonna get smaller. Usually they go upward, so I'm just gonna, you know, make those marks about the spacing in between each of these teeth. So I'm comparing how far close does it get to the top, how does each shape stay the same, and how does it have some unique quality to it. This tooth shape is much different from the others, so you know, look at how these shapes change or how they're unique. there really is no shortcut in drawing. The idea is that you're taking your time to notice intricate, smaller details that you may have passed, in a quick look. So there's really no rushing in this. It's taking your time, it's breaking things down into more simple shapes, it's breaking it down into looking at relationships, and it's taking your time going and moving through it. So I could see that for the bottom teeth, they don't particularly match up perfectly, but what I can do is compare. I see that some of the teeth are a little bit smaller. How do they match up with the top teeth? Where do I see these kinds of overlaps? I see this tooth kind of comes over a little bit more, and then I just see this one. I don't see anything else. If you don't see anything else, don't make it up. A lot of times when we're first starting to draw, we're like, well, we're supposed to see this whole bottom of the bottom jaw. If we don't see it, we don't draw it. And so I'm just going to keep going through, looking at these relationships and bringing in where I see teeth and leaving out where I don't. So I've got a general outline sketch of these teeth here. So always go back, kind of take a look, where can I make some changes? A lot of times I see a lot of the changes when I'm actually doing the shading in. So for this gum, I could see that the shadow's coming from up at the top of the lip. I see that there's gonna be a shadow kind of at the bottom here and the top of the lips. So I'm gonna bring in some of these values. And then also I'm going to start to lighten up some of my teeth here. Some of these outlines, just a bit. Because like I said, we don't really want to have outlines here. What we're going to do is we're going to start building shadows. So I'm going to do some shadows around the lips and then move into the teeth. So because I'm not going to do big outlines around my teeth, I really start to create their form in the top and the bottom of the shape with my shadows. That's one of my big secrets, well not secrets, but one of my big tips is that as I'm doing the blending, I use the gums to bring in how does the top of that tooth look. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start to build up this top layer of these teeth by creating the shadow that comes below this. So like I said, I started to create the shape of the teeth from the gums and using the gums to start to form them. If you don't see the gums, you don't draw them, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be starting to create these shadows. The top layer of these teeth are much lighter than the bottom. There are going to be some middle values down below. So I'm going to start to bring those in, and that is how you create the form of your teeth. You're going to see I'll go slightly in and start to bring in some values to the top teeth as well. They're not all brilliant, bright white teeth. So I am going to bring in some values, but they're going to be so subtle and mostly coming from the bottom or the top. All right, so now I'm just gonna kind of start to bring in the lightest values over here. So I'm seeing in my picture some of the highlights, and like I've done in the past, I like to kind of bring those out a little bit more so that when I'm going in and drawing, I kind of get a better idea of where I'm going to bring in highlights and shadows. So I'm gonna go in and just bring some very subtle things. The best thing you can do is make sure your pencil is super sharpened, so that you can really get in there and have more control. As I'm adding some of my final values, another big point that I have is, remember, as things go back into the space, they have shadows to them. So these teeth that are going back here have a little bit more of a shadow, and then they get whiter as they come towards the front of the mouth. For my wide open mouth, I'm going to use the same drawing techniques, which is guidelines, breaking down where things are going, making marks for the direction that the jaw is going in, make the direction where the teeth are moving. So I'll make some guidelines for all of this. The only difference now is that I'm going to be increasing contrast and value. So there's going to be a deep, deep, deep shadow at the top from right below this top line of teeth and going down. So you're going to see much more dramatic values in an open mouth. I'm still going to use my shadows to develop the shapes of these teeth. I'm still going to outline on my picture reference photo to help me get the shape down a little bit more. I'm still going to use the corner of the mouths. And again, instead of outlining, no outlining, all values. So I'm not going to outline where the top of the lips go. I'm going to use values and highlights, shadows and highlights to create that.